as we count down the final days before this year's World Championships, who better to talk to than somebody who's been there, done that, got the medal? But we've got Philip on the show. Philip, how are we doing today?
Hi, Marcus. I'm doing very, very fine. Thank you. And thanks for having me on the show today.
No worries. I mean, obviously, we're going to get onto the World Championships and what you did, but the main reason we're here is you've done something that not many flag people would think about doing. Is you've basically written an autobiography of your flag career. I mean, what
Yeah.
was the thought behind it and made you think, I'm going to write this now?
At the beginning, I just wanted to write down the day where we became world champion in 2012. I just wanted to reminisce about it and write it down first for myself and then for my family and for my children because they're still quite small and weren't even born at that time. So I wanted to write it down for them and have them read it sometime in the future and see what their dad accomplished in flag football. And then actually, my wife was the one who asked me why I wouldn't write a bigger story, and this became more and more, and then it ended up being an autobiography that focuses a lot on flag football, how I became a flag football player, how I developed into hopefully one of the better quarterbacks in Europe at that time, and what I experienced throughout my career. So it was really surprising that out of the simple idea to write down the day of the championship, a book emerged, and it was a lot of work, but also a lot of fun. And I hope that all the people who purchased the book so far have fun reading it. And yeah, it's definitely something very unique because I don't think there has been a flag football player that's published an autobiography yet.
I mean, we spoke about it before it came out. Obviously, it came out in your country first, and I was
Yeah.
patiently waiting for the English version to come out. And so now I'm glad that one's out there. So, I mean, hopefully we'll drop a link in the description of this video about where people can pick it up, and so hopefully we get a few more readers on that one. I mean, it's a great book, and it's great to see not only you didn't just kind of like step into a team and say, I want to join your team and like work your way from there. You went, I'm going to create a new team, and it's a team that's still going now. And
Yeah.
you were at the Peace Bowl in Vienna as well. You got a bit of like a reunion team going as well. How was that?
It was great. It was really great because I haven't been playing for more than 5 years, and again, my kids have never seen me play basically, and so it was out of that motivation that I tried to put the band back together and get at least 10 people to play with me at the Peace Bowl, and most of them were people that played exactly at the same time with me, so they stopped playing also some 5 6 years ago, and we did practice a couple of times with my team that, as you said, is still going. I had a couple of joint practices, felt quite okay, and yeah, we had a lot of fun playing. I mean, I noticed that when you're not playing for 5 years, obviously you get worse quite fast. But at the end, some kind of skills were still there, and we won some games, we lost some games, so we were very satisfied, and we had a lot of fun playing in the Peace Bowl. So hopefully this year there was no Peace Bowl, but maybe next year or in 2 years' time there's another version, and I hope to motivate a few of my colleagues again to participate in this tournament again.
I mean, if you're talking about retirement things and bits like that, I mean, obviously, Nuola have got the Masters tournament coming up, which is anybody over the age of 40. They're on about doing it next year as well, so you never know. You might want to pop over and have a nice little tour of England and see if you can win some tournaments over here as well.
I don't know about winning some tournaments, but it sounds like a lot of fun to at least compete a little bit again and compete just for the fun, right? Because as I've also written in my book, I had some problems during my career with some issues about competing, having the impression that I have to win all the time, especially being a quarterback. So the thing that I really liked most about the Peace Bowl was simply to play with friends competitively, but without any pressure. And this is something that I didn't have mostly throughout my career.
And you mentioned conditions that have kind of affected you through your career, and one of them you brought up quite a few times was, as you coined it, flag bowl disease.
Yeah.
So obviously that's it's a bit of a condition that you've kind of got yourself, where you start to feel a bit run down as it comes to the finals. I mean,
Yeah.
is it a seasonal thing? Do you still suffer with that now?
No, 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 no. Fortunately not. It was only happening really the week before big championship games. So before the championship in Austria, the week before that in October every year, and also during European and World Championships, I suffered from the same. And uh, I didn't know for years basically what it was, but at the end it was just an extreme nervousness. Nervousness because I felt that, again, as a quarterback of the team, I was mostly responsible, maybe not for the success of the team, but I felt myself mostly responsible if something went wrong. So I always felt that if I played poorly, then the team didn't have a chance to win anything. And if I played well, then we had quite a good chance. Then I had to rely also on my teammates, obviously. But I always felt that I was the only one who could, as a single person, lose the game for the entire club or for the entire team. And this was a pressure that I put on myself. I don't know why I did it, and I did it subconsciously, so I don't know. But this is something that I really struggled with throughout my career.
I mean, psychological issues is a great thing to look at when he looks at sports and athletes and things. Obviously, it's a team sport, but then some people have the psychological mentality that they're on their own. Some people have it it's a team and you're all kind of banding together. But I mean, one of the other psychological things that you kind of had, especially near the start of your career, was the using the same ball. And
Yeah,
was it the when you went to like an international game that you ended up like using a different ball, or it was I think it was the international tryouts where you had to
yeah,
use a
exactly.
different ball. I mean,
Yeah.
how hard was for that for you to like overcome?
It was very hard at the very moment where I had to use these other balls because I myself I didn't realize that this was such a big problem. I simply before that I simply played with the ball I had, and it was fine, and I threw thousands of passes with that ball, and I never realized that with a different ball I would have such big troubles. But at this national team tryout in 2008, I really had troubles even throwing the ball, and it was I don't know, it was simply maybe some technical issue from a throwing motion, or I don't know what it was, but I overcame that pretty quickly. So it wasn't, I think, a big mental issue. It simply was that I wasn't used to these type of balls. But immediately after the tryouts, I purchased different balls, and I started practicing with all of them, with college football balls, with the official NFL balls, with everything. And after a few months, it wasn't a problem anymore. So it was just for me. It was important for me to throw a lot of to make a lot of throws with these new balls, and then it was fine. So it was, as I said, not really a mental issue, but again, I was surprised during this tryout that it went so poorly for me because of the only reason that I didn't have my own ball with me.
I mean, I think quarterbacks especially are a very very creature of habit sort of thing. Everyone has their
Mm,
like their routines, and so I mean, even like you had said there, like the simple aspect of changing a football,
yeah.
it just affects you slightly, and that's all it needs. And I think that's where the pressure comes from inside you, like inside your own head.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so quickly moving on to Panama, the game where you had an interception. It was like a bit of a game changing moment for you.
Mhm.
Again, we seem to be sticking a bit of psychology on this one, but how as a quarterback do you kind of get onto the next pass?
Yeah, this game was especially difficult for me. It was during the World Championships in 2012, the one that we at the end that we won, but it was a preliminary round game against Panama, and we also had Denmark in our group, and we haven't beaten Denmark in years before that, and especially I struggled against the Danes for many many years. And during these championships, only the first two teams of each group qualified for the semifinals. So there was no quarterfinals, just semifinals. And I knew that if we lost against Panama, we would have to beat Denmark, which was for me something that was impossible at that time. So I knew we had to win that game to qualify for the semifinals, and it went back and forth. It went quite well, I think, also on the offensive side. But during the end of the game, we were trailing by 1 point and had third and goal at the 1 or 2 yard line. And I called a play that we often called in those type of situations, and that I was very confident in because it worked most of the time, almost all of the time. And the mistake I made is I simply was too careless with my throw because I just anticipated that the play would work like all the time, and I didn't see a defender that cut in front of my receiver, and I threw this interception, and it was devastating for me. It was devastating because it was third and goal from the 2 yard line. So this is something that you cannot afford not to score in those type of situations. And also, it was basically game over because it was 1 minute before the end of the game, and they knelt down, and that was it. And this was one of the hardest moments for me in my career because I really felt at that time, and I think it was true that I felt this. That I cost my team a chance to win the game and even more to advance into the semifinals. And this was very very difficult for me because everything came true what I've always feared, that I would be responsible for the whole team to lose a game like this, and so a world collapsed, and I was extremely disappointed and extremely sad after that, and really in a big hole. And the funny thing is, we played Italy in the next game, a game that we had to win if we wanted to have a small chance of qualifying, and also a game that we anticipated winning. And this was one of the most fun games that I ever played as a quarterback in the national team, because I simply didn't care, because I thought we lost already. We cannot qualify anymore because the Danes beat us 1 year before, something like 60-20 in the European Championship finals. And I didn't care what happened during the game. The Italians scored at the beginning. We were trailing, and I didn't care. I simply had fun. And at the end, we crushed the Italians because it was such an easy game for me. As I said, the easiest game I've ever played, I think. And there again, you see how psychology comes into play when you talk about playing flag football, or especially quarterback.
So when you go to European Championships and the World Championships as well, obviously when you've played your national level, most of the clubs seem to play at a very very similar level, like style of play in each country. So, but
Yeah,
how hard is it to kind of adapt your way of playing to kind of counteract a different nationality and the different style they play? Obviously, like the Americans are something like Mexico is very much multiple quarterbacks.
yeah,
There are some countries that are a lot more physical than others, and will let you get away with it.
yeah,
And then some are a
yeah.
bit more like speed based. I mean, what was your how do you kind of like move your offense into each different one and go, this is how we need to play against this one?
Yeah, yeah. As I said, I mostly looked at it from an offensive point of view, being a quarterback, and but you have to adjust a lot. So we tried to do a lot of video analysis of the other teams, and especially when you play quarterback, you have to see if the plays that you normally play, if they work against a certain defense. You look at what the defense is doing in general. Do they play zone? Do they play man? Are they starting deep, or are they starting tight, and try to play physical with you. And based on that, you have to simply adapt. And also these championships in 2012 were a good example of that, where, for example, in the semifinals against Mexico, we saw that they were very maybe, yeah, athletically they were very good, but especially one of the cornerbacks had troubles defending the deep pass, and we tried to repeatedly challenge him with this, and this worked. And normally, my style of playing was simply try to have 3 plays for the first down, and then 3 plays for the touchdown, sometimes 4 plays. So really slowly trying to have safe passes and march down the field. And the tactic against Mexico was totally different, because we knew we'd better beat them with the deep ball, because they were very fast and defending the short throws very well. And on the other hand, in the final against the US, they were always trying to defend the deep ball because that's what their style of play is. They play 1-2 passes, touchdown. Again, 1-2 passes, touchdown. And so I didn't throw one single deep pass. I think the deepest pass I threw traveled 10 yards in the air, something like this, maybe 12 yards. Because we knew the longer the ball stays in the air, the better chance they had of making an interception or making a play on the ball. And we simply tried to stay patient, very, very patient, short passes, and more often than not needed 8 plays to have a touchdown. Went to the sideline, tried to relax a little bit, and 30 seconds later we were on the field again because the US has scored in 2 plays. So this was very, very interesting to see.
So let's go to the big game that you've got. It's what was your kind of mental state, and as it, not just for you but for the team as well, and the psychological things going through you as you kind of stood on the sideline ready for that first play in the World Championships.
I mean, our coaches did a very, very good job because they always believed in us. Even after our loss against Panama, they always said, yeah, then we have to beat Denmark. And then in the semifinals, we simply have to beat Mexico. And then in the finals, yeah, now let's beat Team USA. You know that you're good enough for that. I don't know if my teammates believed it, at least in the final at the beginning. I didn't believe it 100% because I knew that they dominated, the US team dominated the whole championships. And I wasn't sure if we stood a chance. But the good thing was in the final, at least in the first half, there was no pressure because I didn't feel any pressure from our side to win. I think the Americans had everything to lose and we had everything to gain in that game. So it was really a very, very nice experience also. And I really enjoyed playing at least the first half. And then after the first half, after it was a tight game, then the pressure mounted a little bit. But I think during the game, I never had problems with the aforementioned flag ball disease during games. And I don't think it really affected my performance that much. It was mostly the anxiousness before the games. So I didn't have any problems also in the final with that. But in the second half, the nervousness increased because we suddenly realized that we had a chance to upset Team USA and win the championships. And also in the second half, we started with the offense, which means that after it being tied at the halftime, we always scored first, and we were leading the whole second half, although the Americans came back all the time. But it was a very nice experience, and I was pretty calm considering the circumstances, I would say.
And then as we look to the end of that game, when that final whistle goes, I mean, how long does it take to kind of sink into your head that not only have you won the game and you've beaten America, it's their sport really, and it's also, you're now world champions. How long do you kind of like stand there like soaking all the atmosphere in and everything else?
Yeah, I think we realized it pretty quickly. So we were tied with something like 2 minutes left, and then we made a touchdown. Oh no, we weren't tied. We were leading by 1 point, I think. And we're making a touchdown, we're making the extra point, and then the Americans had 20 seconds to go. And the only thing that I hoped for was that I didn't need to go back to the field again because I felt that I'd left everything out there, and I simply wanted the defense to stop them. And the Americans came pretty close. They had one more chance with about 10 yards to go, with 2 seconds to go, and but when the ball left the quarterback's hand and then flew through towards the receiver, and I saw that our defender was there first and batted it away. As soon as our defender touched the ball, we more or less stormed on the field. I think the ball didn't even hit the ground before we were running all around the field and celebrating immediately. So this was something that we realized really, really quickly, but the implications of it or what it really meant, this came later, and it's still coming more or less with every championship because the US haven't even lost a game since this final in 2012, let alone any championship. They've won everything, and the more they win, the more special I feel our win from 2012 becomes for me.
I mean, how often do you kind of look back at that situation? So obviously you've had your whole career, and once you've done past that bit, how often do you just kind of look back at it and go, you can basically introduce yourself as a world champion in a sport.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing, and I still can't believe it sometimes. But the book was also a very good thing for me in that I could really go back and relive everything, relive the start of my career, how I became a flag football player, and obviously relive also these world championships. And during writing the book, it was great to do that. And I'm also watching some of the old videos sometime, mostly with my kids. When they ask me again if when we watch an NFL game, then sometimes they say, "Oh, we also want to see you play again." And then I watch maybe the final with them again, the World Championship final. So I've seen it at least 10 or 15 times, and I like to go back to this day. And I also have the jersey, the original jersey. It was also a funny story because after the World Championships, all the players said we're going to keep the jersey, and the Austrian American football federation first said they wouldn't give them to us, and then we simply kept them, and they didn't have any chance to get them back. So all of the players have their shirts, and I have it right next to me here with the gold medal and with clippings from the newspapers. And it's basically something I see every day here in my house, and it reminds me a lot of my career, and especially of these magic days in 2012 in Sweden.
Like I said, I mean, I've finished the book, and it has been a great read to kind of like follow. I mean, normally when you see like this is my autobiography in a sports one, it's like NFL players and things and how they've won a Super Bowl. But when you're looking at it going from as a flag football fan, it's great to kind of read it somebody going, this is what they did to kind of follow their path and their career into the
Yeah,
highest levels of flag football, and it's absolutely great to read one. So I mean, like I said, we'll put a link in the description for this one. So anyone who wants to read this book, go out, buy it, and just, put a positive review on this one because it's a great read.
thank you.
And so I mean, when we're looking at the flag football as it is now, so obviously when you started playing, compared to what you see now with the World Championships being televised, obviously you've got the how big the sport has grown. I mean, did you ever think you'd see that from looking back from when you first started playing, that it would be as big as it is now?
I've seen also throughout my playing career the sport evolving and becoming bigger, but I wouldn't have envisioned that in 2024 there's a world championship with 32 teams from all continents, let alone the Olympics, which I think we'll discuss later. But it is great to see. It's great to see that teams from Australia and New Zealand come to Finland for a world championship. Obviously, also the North and South American teams who have been to many world championships in the last 10 or 12 years. So this is really great to see. And to be honest, I didn't anticipate it in such a big way. I knew that we had something going. I knew that, especially with American football fans in the background, that flag football had a chance, and it's also how I became a flag football player. I was an American football fan, and I simply didn't want to play American football myself. And then I realized that there is flag football, and I started playing flag football. And that's what many people also in Austria here did before and after me, I think. And it's great to see that it really catches on all over the world, and more teams are playing. The level of competition is higher and higher each year, and people are simply enjoying the sport. I mean, there is a lot of things that need to be done to make it even more attractive. There are a few issues with the sport. It's not a spectator sport yet. Also, the presentation of the games at the World or European Championships are something that I think could be done much better. But we're in a good way, I think, and especially in the next 4 years and beyond that, will decide where this sport will go in the future.
So looking at this year's World Championships, if you kind of have to pick a couple of teams that not only want to watch because of how well they play, but also you think is going to be the top competitors at the end of this tournament. Who are you kind of looking at from at this point in time?
Yeah, I think right now or for this year's championship there are no real surprises yet. I think we will see the same teams at the top that we've seen the last few years. So I think the final in both competitions, men's and women's, is probably going to be USA against Mexico. I think those two nations are very, very good. And for the bronze medal, I see some kind of competition. I think the Austrian women are very strong again this year. They have a better team than last year with their quarterback that's been quarterbacking the team for more than 10 years now, who missed out on the European Championships last year. I also think Great Britain has a good women's team, so maybe those two teams battle for third place. And on the men's side, I think the favorite for third place is Germany, in my point of view, because they've played a very, very strong European Championships last year, and they have a clear plan about the future, also about the Olympics. And this is not a big surprise, but I think the next couple of years will tell you what's going to happen in 2026 and especially 2028, because there are a lot of nations that are, for example, very, very good in tackle football, who are not very good in flag football yet. And all the tackle football players are a big wild card in this process. So right now in Austria, there's maybe one or two that also play flag football and are part of the team. In Germany, they have implemented a little bit more tackle football players. But I anticipate that in the next few years that many more of them will want to play flag football. And I know there's a big discussion in the US going on right now, but also in Europe, I think the national organizations have to decide how they want to go about this, how they want to integrate tackle players. And in this regard, I see maybe a very, very bright flag football future for good tackle football nations. And the two nations I think are on the forefront here is, on the one hand, Canada, who hasn't won a whole lot in flag football in the last decade, but always had very, very strong tackle football teams, obviously. And the second team on the men's side is Japan. Japan is a very, very good tackle team, national team, and they haven't won anything in flag. So I think if they really maybe structure their national team a little bit differently and make it maybe more professional or more towards tackle players in the future, then they will also be a force to be reckoned with. But for this year's championships, as I said, I don't see too many big surprises. I think the established teams will win again. But what I'm really looking forward is, and it should come out today or tomorrow, the rosters of all the teams, because they haven't been published yet, and to see who is really playing, and then we'll be able to say more. But for me, the big favorites are, of course, the US and Mexico.
I mean, I think anytime you talk flag football, you can't really miss out USA and Mexico. They're a powerhouse at the moment. But it's great to see
Yeah,
that a lot of the teams that would normally be battling for third and fourth and fifth are actually pushing America and Mexico in a lot of games. So it's not
yeah.
like the walkover wins that it used to be. There's some very, very close games, and you're thinking it's not going to be long before you're going to see like USA versus Germany in the men's finals, or Mexico versus Germany in the men's finals. Maybe Great Britain
Yeah,
in the women's final as well.
yeah. Especially because it's all about not making a mistake on offense. I mean, when you've seen the results in the last few years and the scores in the last few years, then anything can happen if any offense makes a mistake or two. And this is also what helped us in 2012 in the final. The U.S. Quarterback, who is now the coach of the men's team, George Cascudo, he threw one interception, and that was it. That's why they lost the game. And so I think also this year, of course, if Team USA throws an interception, and for example Germany is really really well organized on offense and scores on every drive, then they win against Team US. So it's because it's such a high scoring offense oriented sport. You simply cannot afford to make a mistake, and everyone could make a mistake, and then you have those tight games or maybe surprise winners.
So you mentioned the current conversation in the USA, and I think anybody who's involved in flag football has seen this comment from Daryl Doucette of the American national team
Yeah.
saying that he is in the QB IQ variations. He is a better flag QB than Patrick Mahomes, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are kind of taking that a bit out of context, where he's just basically said, "I'm better than Patrick Mahomes." So
Yeah.
anybody who reads the full thing, it basically said that he has even said that Patrick Mahomes is better quarterback in every way. It's the IQ of the quarterback that's actually is actually better for him. I mean, so when like you've seen all the NFL players saying that they want to play in the Olympics, do you think that it's going to be a nice easy step over for them into flag, or do you think it's going to take a while for them to kind of work out the nuances of each sport?
I think they definitely have to work out the nuances. They don't even know the rules by now, because I think mostly in the US nobody has ever played five versus five. They mostly play 7 versus 7, and if you've seen the Pro Bowl flag football game, I mean that was a joke, right? And there's nothing to do with what we are playing here when we're talking about 5 versus 5. So regarding what Daryl said, I think first of all, if this was his intention, and I don't know if it was his intention, but this was a very good PR move, because I've never seen anything like this in social media or media in general, not only social media. And his comments, even if he doesn't believe them, were really great for flag football, because now you have a discussion, everybody's weighing in. So I think it was a really good move for him by saying that. When you say about the being a flag football quarterback, I think that when you put them on the field right now, then he is the best flag football quarterback, because it's something different. You have to make completions. You don't have to make any mistakes. You don't throw on timing so much, because people tend to be more open. So there's a few things, and this is maybe what he means with flag football IQ, that you need to realize that are different than playing in the NFL. But having said that, if some NFL player seriously wants to play flag football, then I don't think that they will be worse. They will be better than the current players. So let's say if for example, because he recently retired, Colt McCoy says, okay, now he wants to pursue flag football and practices for the next 4 years to be being a flag football quarterback. I think, of course, he can be very, very, very good. But I think in general the discussion are good for the sport. And the only thing that's important for me is that really, especially for the team USA, the best players should simply play. I don't care if it's Daryl or if it's Colt McCoy or whoever. They should hold open tryouts just like they do for athletics. And the best team or the best players should play at the Olympics. I don't care if it's flag football players or ex-tackle players or ex-NFL players. I really don't care. The only thing that I don't want to see is I don't want to see current NFL stars simply deciding for 2 weeks being flag football stars and then going back to the NFL. Not because I think they're not good enough or they're better. That's not the point. The point is that I think it's bad for the sport if they simply come in, play an exhibition for 2 weeks, have a lot of PR, and then go back being NFL stars. So I'm totally against that. As I said, if some retired NFL players or some ex-college football stars think that they are better and want to play at the Olympics, then they should train, they should try out, and they should qualify for the team. And as far as the current flag football players are concerned, when they complain that somebody else comes in and steals their jobs, basically, then I have a simple message for them. They should train harder and play better than those guys, and then they will be on the team. I mean, it's different right now. When you want to prepare for the Olympics, you probably have to do this at least a little bit semi-professionally. And I know that there's a semi-professional league that's about to start next year. It was postponed in 2024. They tried to start it again in 2025 in the US. And I think there are a lot of very good players that will play the sport at least semi-professionally and that will end up being on a great US American team. And I don't care if they are NFL players, they can come and try out, but please don't send the 10 biggest or 12 biggest superstars to the Olympics for 14 days and then they never play flag football again. That's not a thing that I want to see.
And I think that was the other thing that he said is that if NFL players want to come in, this is when the tryouts are. Come to the tryouts, come to the practice sessions. And I
Yeah.
think it was Ben Cleaver from Germany who said it on the IFAF show the other night, where they mentioned a German NFL receiver, and he said, yeah, he's great if he wants to come down, as long as he turns up to every single practice and puts the work in, and he is a better receiver, he's more than welcome on the team. But like as you said, don't just turn up on the finals day and hope that you can just walk into a squad.
Yeah, perfect. That's I would put it exactly the same way. And I talked to the team manager of Germany last year about how they would go about it, and he said it's very very clear for them. They will have tryouts. Everybody with a German passport can come to the tryouts, and if they're good enough, they qualify for the trainings and for the practice sessions. And if they come there and they're good, then they should play on the team. And I agree 100% with Benjamin here, to say they should come, they should practice, and if they're better, which they probably will be if they practice flag football, then they should be on the team. That's exactly what I think is the right thing to do.
So looking slightly bit further back with the Olympics, I mean, when you heard that flag football was officially announced as an Olympic sport, obviously there was a lot of rumours in the flag football community that it was getting very very close, but we're all kind of waiting for that one announcement that says yes, it's definitely in. Can you? I mean, how did you feel knowing that the sport you've played for a long time is actually an Olympic sport now?
It's weird because when you start playing the sport, when it's really a little bit in the beginnings, then you'd never think that this would happen one day. But and also when the decision, when I heard about the decision, I couldn't really believe it. But the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, why not? There are other sports at the Olympics that are mostly amateur sports, and that are also welcome there for many, many years now. And I think flag football is a sport that can definitely be at the Olympics and also stay there. I mean, I don't know what happens after the games in Los Angeles, if it's immediately being scratched again or if it's given a second chance. But I think the sport itself has a very, very good chance of becoming, yeah, a big sport around the world and stay at the Olympics. But something needs to be done about organizing the events and trying to make an event out of it. Because the biggest problem, in my point of view, that flag football have is the lack of supporters and in general the lack of people who want to show up and watch the game. So even the World Games 2 years ago in the US had no spectators at all, basically, maybe just a few dozen or 100, and that's not enough. So I think the most important thing is to make an event out of it, and I would compare it, for example, to beach volleyball, who wasn't really interesting or even existing 20, 25 years ago, and then they made big events out of the tournaments. They really marketed well. They had better and better players competing in those type of events. They had money coming in. They had merchandising. They had marketing. They had everything, and it grew to what it is now. And the next thing that I would compare it to is the 3 versus 3 basketball, which also didn't exist. And it's a smaller field, a smaller area, a certain type of atmosphere, a faster game. And this is something that flag football should lean on in the future when they really try to make the next step of being a spectator sport. And if money comes in and if it stays at the Olympic Games and people realize, okay, this is also something that I could pursue. I mean, NFL will also be first, but somebody who isn't competing in the NFL then has to decide, okay, should I go to the Canadian Football League or maybe the ELF in Europe right now? Or do I try to become a flag football professional, play in one of these semi-pro leagues in the US that might exist in a few years? And compete at the Olympics, and then you have maybe some big events throughout the world, something like a world tour, and then you can really be a successful flag football professional. And this raises again the level of the play, and the game becomes more and more important, more and more interesting for spectators also. But how it is right now, really a very still very amateurish game. I don't think has a big chance of staying at the Olympics as it is right now. There has a lot of things have to be need to be done, and it needs to be professionalized, especially when you look again also at these World Championships. I think that the communication from IFF it is better than in the previous years, but still not perfect. I think you can do it better. You should be able to for example release the schedule earlier than they did, not a few days before the tournament. It's now 3 days before the tournament. We don't even know the rosters of the teams yet. So there's things that they need to work on and to professionalize the sport even more.
I mean, I think the comparison to the 3-on-3 basketball is a great one because obviously you have the NBA 5-on-5, and it's a massive sport.
Yeah.
3-on-3 it's a slightly condensed version of the sport, but it's a bit quicker. And I think that's what when people look at American football and flag football, that's what they'll be looking at. It's this sport that we all know, but just
Mm.
shrunk down a little bit and a little bit quicker. And I think that's what a lot of people love about the sport is it's not
Yeah.
like are you big enough to smash to smash through somebody. It's whether you can dance around people. You've got different skills that are on show. So it's a great advertisement for the NFL as well.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, the NFL has been successfully pushing flag football. And what they've done in the last 2 years, of course, getting them to the Olympics. But in general, when you see all those commercial during the Super Bowl, playing the Pro Bowl as a flag football tournament, I mean, it's really amazing what they did. And 3 years ago, 4 years ago, no one could have imagined that this would happen, and they are basically all in regarding flag football, and it will be interesting to see what they're going to do after 2028. Of course, there's the big decision if it stays in the Olympics or not, but right now they're promoting the hell out of it, and I don't know. I don't know if it's just for the 4 years or if they have a long-term plan with it. If they plan also competitions that they right now have for children's tournaments. They organize a lot of children's tournaments all over Europe, in the UK as well, I think. And I don't know if they also have intentions to create something like a semi-professional NFL flag football summer league or whatever it's called. We will see, but they are obviously the big pusher in the background, and without the NFL, I think the sport wouldn't have any chance of being at the Olympics. So that's really a great job by them.
Obviously, 2028 is going to be a great year for flag in the Olympics, and then hopefully we'll see 2032, which I think is Australia. So I
Yeah.
think that'll be the big one. If we make it into Australia as well, I think that'll be like a very very good kind of like next step, and kind of like it gives us a bit of a push off on that one. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so Philip, thank you for joining us on this one. Again, great book. Anybody who enjoys flag football, go out and get a copy and start learning how somebody can go from not know, like watching NFL on TV to starting their own team to becoming into the national team, Europe, like, and then going to the World Championships and being America. It's like I said, great book to read. So Philip, once again, thank you for joining on this one,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
and hopefully we'll see everyone out on the field soon.